Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dark Rhino Security Confidential. This is Manoj Tandon, your host. Today, we are honored to have Bob Carver join us, and he is of no relation to the speaker guy. I wish he was, but
Me too.
but but he's awesome. He actually started his career off in the financial sector and then got into cybersecurity. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here in the future. But he has worked for, I think he was one of the first employees at Verizon in their incident response business.
The
Wireless, yeah.
Right.
So we'll get that background. And you, Bob, were also voted by LinkedIn as one of the top 5 influencers in the world to follow for cybersecurity. What an honor there. And you were recently at CES on a panel discussing cybersecurity and product development. So thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me here, Manoj.
I appreciate it. We're grateful for many of the insights that you're going to bring to us. Our audience is pretty eclectic, and they love these topics. And our mission is to educate them, and hopefully, knowing what you do, you're going to be able to give a couple nuggets on some practical things that some of them might be able to implement in their businesses and their daily lives as cybersecurity professionals. But we got to start with, how did you get into this? You were in finance.
I was an IT guy that was working in the financial industry. And then I volunteered for all the security projects at the financial institution. Fidelity Investments. You probably heard of that.
I've heard of them.
So they
you didn't like your job? You wanted to take more punishment? Was that the?
Well, I thought it was. I think I knew instinctively that security was going to be an up and coming thing. So I volunteered for a lot of projects. Like my first project was building a key management center that basically it keeps track of security keys for encrypted systems. And we had these, financial institutions that transfer, millions of dollars back and forth. And you'd have private circuits and you wanted it encrypted and that sort of thing. So I built an encryption system called a key management system out of embedded Unix. Back in 1999, so it would be Y2K compliant.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. And Unix. So, what was the platform at that time? Was that Sun?
It was embedded Unix.
Oh, embedded Unix.
Actually called QNX, I think. And what was wild is that only ran on 5 1/4 floppies, and I had to source a 5 1/4 floppy drive because they weren't using them anymore. They still had the disk at 3, I think it's 3 1/4. Anyway, the normal size disk, the smaller diskettes, but the floppies, they just didn't have them. So I had to find somebody that was selling some new old stock on 5 1/4.
I still might have some new old stock lying around. I kept it around for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Just so that people walk into my office and say, "What's that for?"
It's
like,
that's good. That's nice.
It's a talking point. But key management is huge. I mean, even today, that's a very relevant topic.
Sure.
And there's a bit of a science to it and a process to it. It's not something you just do haphazardly.
And I think it was, it was probably back then, it was AES 256 was considered, DOD type encryption. So, although AES 256 is getting less and less as the top banana, they're getting bigger, better, badder.
Look, as our compute power goes up, and these things, that world is going to continue to evolve and change. When we look at quantum computing, what's going to happen with that? It's anyone's guess. I mean, there's a lot of theories out there. But chances are 50 years from now, maybe AES 256 can be cracked in microseconds,
Oh, yeah, unfortunately.
Right. And that throws a real damper on the entire internet. But we'll get to that in a second. I wanted to get to how did you start as on the Verizon team then in
Yeah.
incident? So
Yeah,
two questions there, actually,
go ahead.
Bob.
Go ahead.
Two questions there. So first of all, we think of Verizon. I know everybody knows of Verizon security now, but typically if you ask the layperson about Verizon, they're thinking about that guy that walks around saying, "Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?"
Sure.
So explain a little bit about how does a company like that even get into the security business? And then how the heck did you become
Yeah.
the first guy in this thing?
Yeah. They did have some full-time people on the Verizon, the wireline, the older wireline side, but wireless, they were part-time people and contractors.
Okay.
And what happened, I'd say I owe my job at Verizon Wireless to Paris Hilton. I don't know if you remember, but
I
Paris
remember.
Hilton,
Who doesn't know Paris Hilton?
yeah, Paris Hilton. Anyway, if I ever see her, I have to thank her, but I haven't seen her recently, so
Oh, well,
maybe one of these days.
hey, maybe you're in better social circles than I am because I can't get into those parties.
No, I haven't been to any of her parties either. But what happened? I think the device was called a Sidekick back then. And anyway, her account got hacked at T-Mobile, and the Verizon Wireless folks, which was a totally separate entity back then from Verizon, they said, "Oh, I think we better start hiring some full-time guys." So anyway, as a result, I went to long interview process, back and forth with multiple candidates, and they ended up hiring me as employee number one for Verizon Wireless back in 2005.
You know what? I bet you Paris Hilton doesn't listen to this podcast, but also she probably has no clue that she inadvertently kicked off one of the largest security arms in the world.
There you go. I think you're probably right on that.
Right. And from this story that you're telling. So that's amazing how she has that much power, even when she's not
Sure
involved with it directly.
She didn't have the social media back then, just she had the normal press.
Yeah, she had the normal press. So when Verizon got into this, was it just about incident response, or were they actually going to get into like full SOC operations and things?
Oh, well, eventually we did get into full SOC operations. It started out just with me for quite some time, and then which, millions and millions of events.
Yeah.
And then finally I said, well, when am I going to hire somebody, and they finally let me hire one guy. And then over time we were hiring more. And now, we have dozens of people and working 24/7.
So what, I guess that there's a question in there that I can't think of anybody who listens to this hasn't faced a budget problem, right? So just looking at the Verizon example you gave, it sounds like what caused the executive team to actually give you a budget to say, all right, Bob, maybe we'll let you have a guy and a slice of pizza too.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, one of the big expenses we started out with, besides personnel, was being able to, because there's so many security events. When you're talking about a nationwide wireless network,
I know.
We had well over 100 million customers.
That's incredible.
So even at the beginning, you have tens of millions of security events, and how do you make sense of those? I tried to. Matter of fact, I was hired before a director and the CISO or all those people. I was like the guy, but I was dealing with people at the beginning that didn't have a full understanding of what was going on. I said, you're going to have something to make sense of all these events. I said, I showed the events just zooming by. It's like, what, can you make sense of any of those? I said, can you write a report on anything that's going on there? And they said, no, I don't. Anyway, I couldn't get them to come up with a decent answer. And I said, you're going to have to come up with a security event management system to be able to slice and dice those events so you can see them better. And if you want to do some reporting down the road, you're going to have something like that. So got a budget for that, and of course gradually grew that back. That was before things had gone into virtual machines on a regular basis. or the cloud like they
Oh
have
yeah,
today. And so we built that system from one or two servers up to like, I think it was like 24 or 25 servers. So it was pretty
that's a
large.
sizable infrastructure back then. That would have
Oh,
been
yeah.
expensive back then.
Oh, yeah. And very expensive. And of course, you know, uh, just it takes people to manage that infrastructure. You can't just do
Yeah.
that, on a few seconds a day.
No, you can't. You'd need a team of people.
Right.
And
Right.
that equipment back then was very expensive. Storage was expensive. Memory was expensive. I mean, 25
Sure.
servers, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
probably a healthy
Yeah.
7-figure investment into that.
Yeah. Oh, it was a lot. It was a lot. But anyway, we were able to start getting some reporting and able to see events more strategically to be able to see when things were going wrong. So it helped a lot.
So, you have seen and built cybersecurity programs at some very large organizations from their infancy. So I have to ask you the question, why are companies, given the large number of breaches that happen today, why are they so ineffective with cybersecurity? What gives? What's going on?
A lot of times, I don't think they understand the amount of risk until it happens to them or somebody maybe very close to them. You know,
Yeah.
if all of a sudden you have a competitor go out of one of your key competitors go out of business, it's like, oh, maybe this is something I need to look at, and figure out.
So why is that? Is that it's out of sight or out of mind? They
Yeah,
genuinely don't care?
and
Or
and well, I think there's still, especially the smaller the organization is, I think there's still a mindset that the number one most important thing is to remain profitable. So there's cash flow, so you can pay your employees, so you can pay yourself.
yeah.
And then they just sort of, I think, more sort of a head in the sand, uh, or you're playing Russian roulette. They just don't think, well, there's only one bullet in that revolver. It's
Yeah, I got one
what
out
are
of
the
six.
odds? It's not going to happen to me. I mean, I had actually, I mean, at one time my parents were sort of that way too. And they didn't run a business or anything, but I said, you're going to have to do some things to protect yourself. And then my parents were involved, and all their information was exposed in a major breach.
Wow.
And they said, "Oh, we're good Christians. Nothing bad happened to us." And then, like I said, all their stuff was exposed. And then all of a sudden, they
Uh,
call me in a panic, like, "What do I do? What do I do?"
it's unfortunate what you're describing. We primarily at Dark Rhino serve small, medium businesses, and we usually don't get a call from someone until the horse leaves the barn.
Yeah.
And now it becomes a lightning priority, right?
Yes.
Uh, and then there's a little bit of a sticker shock of what does cybersecurity like if you're really going to do it there. And
Mhm.
we'll talk about. I want to get into more detail on that, but
Sure.
is there also, do you think, how much of the, and I'll just put it in air quotes, ineffectivity of cybersecurity is due to cybersecurity professionals not being able to articulate to the business owners what the real business implications are? Is there a failure on that side that's
Uh,
not able to daylight the magnitude of the problem?
I know I've been there before many times. I think until it gets really close up in people's faces, sometimes they just don't want to deal with it. A lot of times because they're dealing with all the things. I mean, just think the things we have to deal with on a regular basis. I mean, inflation alone, the cost of borrowing money. Geez, look at the price of bread, eggs, and cars right now.
Oh, it's
They're just
ridiculous.
gone through the roof. So I think uh, people just have a limit on how much they can process and deal with. So I think that's a lot of it. Again, until it's close and up in their face, it's difficult for people to deal with it. I think it's again more sort of a head in the sand, but I think they're just overwhelmed with the amount of risk out there and what they're dealing with. It's difficult. It's not easy.
Oh, it's absolutely not easy. I'll give you. It is difficult, and for people whose core businesses, they're not in the cybersecurity business. So for them
Yeah.
to even put the right level of resources or get the right advice is a very difficult task at hand. To if they were genuinely interested in it to begin with,
Right.
so we can absolutely appreciate it, but it's unfortunately not going towards solving the problem.
Yeah. Understood. One of the things I know that helps me is that I have seen so many things over the last 23 plus 24, almost 24 years now, probably, um, that I know what can go wrong and what can go bad. And there's times where I had better security in the early days than some corporations. So, and I probably have better security than the most small to medium sized businesses.
I I can absolutely believe that.
And I don't think I have, and I still probably, I'm sure I don't have things covered that I might should, but I'm better than the average bear probably.
Well, Bob, there's no such thing as 100% cybersecurity. I don't think you can
No,
get there. There will always be an attack surface. Always. There will always be vulnerabilities. I don't care what you throw at it.
sure,
It's just never going to be zero. The question is, can you get it down to a place where you know what likely losses may occur and that becomes acceptable to you? If you can do that, then you have better cybersecurity than anybody else at that point.
sure, yeah. One of the things I sort of look at it this way, that you're trying to block all the bad things out there, and of course, like security fences. Think about it. A lot of times there's these big chain link
Yep,
fences, and they have the razor wire on the top and that sort of thing. But you still got little holes in those fences, you know,
you
and then you
do.
got to sort of gradually. I mean, that cuts out some of the big things, but then you got smaller and smaller things that get through the hole. And then you have to sort of like layer your security. Then you have chicken fencing. Then you might have, some sort of like the screens in your windows, to filter out even more things. But then what happens if what you're dealing with that's a threat that's not even something that's physical that you can see and feel? What if they all of a sudden say carbon monoxide or something like that?
Right.
Carbon monoxide is a gas, and it just goes right through all those screens, and can't be stopped. So I think people have to think that there's other things besides what they might know that could be a threat.
Unknown unknowns,
Yes.
right? And what you
Yeah.
just described is defense in depth, Bob.
Yes.
But even
Absolutely.
that has limitations to it,
Sure.
right? And the carbon monoxide analogy, that you look at solar winds, I would put that right in that category. I mean,
Sure.
that was
Yeah.
carbon monoxide poisoning. They
Oh
would have
yeah.
never detected it.
That's right.
Brilliantly engineered. I
Oh yeah. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing more things like that. One of the concerns and this is sort of come and gone a few times, but malvertising, where advertising is carrying malicious payloads.
Please
And
describe that in more detail. That's
sure,
fascinating.
well, one of the things, if you've looked into advertising, online advertising, Google's one of the big ones, and then of course Facebook, and of course then you have, even overseas, you have, the Baidu's and the indexes and
Right.
on and on. But people can buy advertising and almost pinpoint exactly who they want to target, which is really sort of scary. You can probably pinpoint it down to an IP or even a company, a specific ad. And anyway, there's a big science behind this. But the thing is, from what I've heard, I think that the NSA and the CIA actually block advertising from their networks. And if you can block most of the advertising from your networks, then you lower your risk of having that type of situation where malware is dropped on your system.
That's very good advice. Now, the question is are there effective
Yes.
techniques by which you can block
Yeah,
that.
there's multiple layers that on a simple, easy, cheap way that individuals and small business can do. They can install some plugins. There's several. There's a lot of plugins that you can do that block advertising. I could probably find some for you if you need the names, but there's a lot of them out there. Some are better than others, no doubt, just like anything else. But a lot of them are free. There's a few that are paid, but a lot of them are free, and they block a large portion of advertising. But you can also block advertising in DNS. You can block advertising. Some layer 7 firewalls might be able to do it. But for simple consumers and small businesses, get some good security plugins in your browsers and keep them on most of the time, unless there's a site that says you must remove your ad blocker to see the site. Then you can temporarily sometimes remove it or turn it off. And then when you're off that site, then you turn it back on again and you keep on going.
That's really good advice. And there are more and more sites that are relying on those advertising dollars. So,
Sure.
Again, there's probably, like with anything else, there's a balance to be achieved.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right? You've seen so many exploits. Is there anything that is memorable that's like your favorite that you could tell us a story about? And protect the innocent.
Yeah. I think one of the things that comes to mind, and it actually, I help one of the key people to help push this into place. Not being able to download whatever app you want off of the internet. There's a lot of apps that are open source, free on the internet, but the problem is a lot of the cyber criminals and other negative entities, they take that and modify the code and put malware in it. And for example, one that's used for admins to take care of servers and that sort of thing is an app called Putty.
Yeah.
Putty. You probably heard of that.
Very, very familiar with it. Yeah.
There's a lot of the versions of Putty out there are malicious on the internet. And if you don't know where you're getting it from, you may be downloading some malware. But there's others, FileZilla. I mean, I can probably go on
out there too. Yeah.
A lot of the apps that sysadmins use to do, and so I started seeing people download them, and a lot of times I would grab the same thing and start analyzing myself, and I said, "Whoa, this is not the good version. this is the bad version." And so, basically, there were several of us that got together, and we pushed where they could only download apps from an internal website, and to be able to get the tools that they needed, because we had people verify, and actually I had some people go and to the person that wrote the original code and said, "Hey, can you give me a good version?" So that's not malicious, not have malware in it.
Now there's a novel idea. If it's open source, why not just go to the author themselves?
Yeah. And ideally what you should do, if it was a company, give them some money and say, "Hey, thank you very much for your app here." And it's going to be cheaper probably than a commercial version, and if you could verify that it was a good version,
you know what? That is a cheap insurance policy.
Oh yeah. I used to be many years ago, in my early days of PCs, I used to say, "Oh, I want to be able to download whatever I want, whenever I want, whatever." But the problem is, when I started seeing more and more people getting compromised, I thought, "Oh, maybe Apple, when they had the closed system, and they're trying to only download apps from this, maybe that's a good idea now." At first I thought, "No, why should we, be throttled from downloading the apps that you want?" But now I'm sort of thinking it's probably the average consumer, the average person doesn't have the capability to be able to analyze a piece of software and know whether it's malicious or not.
I 100% agree. And you're also cutting out shadow IT.
Yeah.
To some degree by doing that.
Sure. But I can tell you, even though antivirus and endpoint security, generally they're getting better and better all the time. But I've had dozens of pieces of open source software that were malicious, and I knew they were malicious sometimes a week or two before all the antivirus endpoint security.
Look, I'm not going to get in trouble because we actually did a paper on this topic, and it became a little bit controversial. But all these endpoints, they are all the antivirus systems out there are pretty darn good, but they're going to miss about 10%. And I'm going to generalize. They will always miss about 10% of what's floating around out there.
Yeah.
And if you happen to download or come across that 10% that's in the wild, well, and you don't have the skills of a Bob Carver, then you're not going to, you're going to succumb to some bad things potentially.
Exactly.
You know, nothing is free. When you download something for free, it's not free. Yeah, there's a reason for it.
It may have the gift that keeps on giving. It compromises your system, then it'll probably go out and try to compromise other systems.
So, Bob, we're talking about downloading technology. Just switching this a little bit, it seems like a lot of InfoSec programs, are really focused on, acquiring new technologies versus addressing the people, process, awareness side of the equation. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why is everyone thinking that I can cure my problems with just another tool? How about looking at your people as one of your largest and most valuable tools in the organization?
Sure.
That can evolve.
I agree. I think larger corporations have been working on that quite a bit. It's a little tougher with smaller corporations where they have, or smaller companies. They just may not have the resources, or they, if it's a person that it's the owner of the company, he's busy trying to make business happen, to have sales, to have income, that sort of thing. And to get to the point where they can have somebody to focus on security, or even possibly train people to have a security awareness program of sorts, maybe not a full program, but, where they have some sort of quick course, every quarter, or even as much as once a month. You can do it, 5-10 minute thing once a month, and, just for awareness. A lot of times they just like, I'm already working, 80 hours a week, and and they just don't have it. The other thing, I think that on small, medium businesses, a lot of times they have an IT guy, and they think that the IT guy should do all the security too.
And there's a ton of that going on.
Oh, too much. And the poor IT guy, a lot of those small companies, he's already, he's he needs 3 or 4 hands already just to manage the systems and keep them up and running properly, let alone to try to investigate security incidents. So unless something really goes bad, it may not even be seen for a long time.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. We've also, even in larger companies where we've seen, because of budgeting cycles, they get caught up with what was budgeted, but what may not necessarily be the most effective for the present day. Because when the budget was built,
yes,
there was a different set of conditions. Then the world in 6 months changes rapidly.
It does,
especially in InfoSec or cybersecurity. And we've seen this, we see it quite often, even in larger companies. We're like, well, we budgeted for firewalls and now we got to spend the money there. But maybe that's not the best place to go spend it, given what their threat surface is and how things have changed.
No, understood.
Right. So is there, what can be done about that? Even in the larger companies, is there a realization that maybe there needs to be more flexibility brought into the procurement cycles or budgeting cycles, or more flexibility? because it seems like, at least as an outsider, and we work occasionally with the enterprises, but it seems like there's a very solid line there that says, well, this is the money and this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, that's I think part of it depends on the CFO or the person in charge of the money, how flexible they are. And a lot of large companies that have been in existence a long time, they do have a sort of a somewhat rigid way that they finance things, and they want you to sort of stay the course, I guess, most of the time. Well, occasionally there's some flexibility, and some money can be moved into something that could be considered more important. But part of it depends on your person that controls the purse strings and how flexible they are, and how just the awareness of how fast things change in cybersecurity.
I think the mindset. I know where I spent a lifetime in manufacturing before I was in tech, and it comes from manufacturing, right? Manufacturing, you do want to stay the course, and typically when you were ordering things, it wasn't things that were available in 2 microseconds. You had to place orders, and they were built, and then they were delivered.
Sure.
You couldn't just change, right? And I get that, but applying that same mentality to something like cyber or technology in general, maybe there's a rethinking that CFOs should have on this topic.
Yeah. I think a lot of CFOs or people that charge the purse strings, they probably, it would be good if they could have a refresh maybe every quarter of all the changes in technology that are happening. Yeah, just to help them out and to help them best understand how fast things are moving. I mean, it's moving fast. Of course, we know that like in AI and that ChatGPT and machine learning and all that is happening very fast right now.
Have you
Very
tried
fast.
ChatGPT, by the way?
Yeah, I have an account. Yeah,
That thing's
yeah, actually,
amazing. I
yeah. I put a video on LinkedIn and on YouTube just recently. I had it write a haiku, and haiku being a Japanese
I
style
know, poem.
poem. Did you see
Yeah.
that?
I didn't see your. I will go and look it up after this. But
Yeah. Anyway,
I saw a demonstration. I had a junior associate at a law firm recently give me
yeah.
a demonstration of ChatGPT and
Hmm.
how they could use it. And I was like, if I was Google, I would be worried. I
Yeah.
would be
Well,
worried.
Google's on it big time. Baidu, the Chinese search engines, on it big time, and of course Bing and Microsoft too.
Yeah.
They're on it. I think they've been hiring to be able to.
Well, catching up is a tough thing.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But it's
But
amazing.
I think Google's been working on it in the background. They're just not quite as they didn't go out there as big from a PR marketing standpoint. I think they are now. I actually signed up for the Google version. I can't remember the name now, but anyway, hopefully I'll hear something soon.
Well, getting back to the CFO conversation, this is something they'll understand: is the rapid changes happening in the world of cyber insurance, and they'll certainly understand that from what we've been reading, cyber insurance providers are typically today paying out 30 cents on the dollar of the contracted value, because they are really looking at the fine points of exceptions and looking at how
Yeah.
they're going to minimize their payout. So what's happening in that world? I mean, we know
Yeah.
what's
Hey,
driving such a massive clampdown.
I wrote an article of 2023 cybersecurity predictions and a wish list. And this is one of the key points that I brought up about. I said, cyber security insurance is big time in flux right now. And I think right now all the pieces are sort of like thrown up in the air, and we're going to see where everything lands. But one of the things that was sort of the big indicator of what was going on, Lloyd's of London, as you probably know, is one of the largest
Yes,
reinsurers
it
of cyber insurance in the world. And they're partners with a lot of the other large cyber companies in this cyber insurance.
yes, they are.
And they made an announcement a few months back. They said, oh, we're not going to insure any nation state related breaches anymore. And that, of course, that's a lot. I mean, it's the Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, on and on. You can name it. And if it's considered a nation state sponsored breach, they just won't cover it. Quite interesting. Within about a week later, after they announced that, they were breached by some nation state,
And
and so which was really ironic. And
well,
then, go ahead.
go ahead, please.
Oh, and after that, Zurich Insurance basically said, I don't think we're going to be able to continue on this course of cyber insurance as we know it. It's going to have to change drastically, and there are going to be a bunch of changes, and it's already started. So what did you want to say?
Well, I can tell you, for when you were talking about Lloyd's, we know them intimately well. Not that we work with them directly, but
Right.
we had some mutual clients, and in the energy sector, I won't name names, but they got dropped. Their coverage got dropped. They just said, you know what? In this space, we just don't care. We don't care what controls you have. We're out.
Yeah.
We're just not going to insure it.
Yeah.
You're not insurable, which for Lloyd's is a big thing, because remember, I think they insured Marilyn Monroe's finger or Cary Grant's eyes. They insured anything you could get your hands on. So
Right.
for a company like that to just say, for cyber, this sector, we're washing our hands of it. So long, farewell. It's time to say goodbye. That's a really big thing.
I think one of the key things we have to look at is the exclusions in the fine print. There's going to be more and more and more exclusions in the fine print. So you better have your attorney and probably even an insurance expert with you when you go to sign the next version of insurance. And of course, the other thing is the cost of insurance has gone sky high. I've heard a lot of people that their insurance went up like 40, 60%, and there's some of them even several 100%.
Yep.
So that's a key thing. And then, of course, you may have heard this, but they're going to start requiring multifactor authentication on a lot of things, especially anything that has to do with admin privileges, any privileged account at all. If they find out,
two questions on that.
Sure.
You're absolutely right. They are requiring, unless you're a donut shop, then maybe you don't have anything to MFA. But
right.
Barring something like that, they're requiring MFA. Why MFA only? Or why is everyone keyed on MFA? And is it because the attack surface is so large? MFA is a key piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also mentioned admin accounts. How the heck do I know what admin accounts I have? I mean, that's a whole bee's nest of a problem. So please, I'd like you to comment on both those.
It's when it's a real small business, they may not know. I mean, if they have a part-time PC guy that comes in and look at their system maybe once a quarter or something, just to see if everything's working okay, it's the PC guy hopefully knows, but the small business owner, a lot of times he's not going to know. And
but even in like a small 500-person company is a small business, right? And
sure.
You look at the number of cloud-based services that they're consuming, right? Whether that be Salesforce, Jira, you pick something, QuickBooks,
Office 365,
Office 360. They have a huge cloud-based infrastructure. They might have stuff in AWS and
right,
and they might have a lot of various admins, and various service level accounts that are accessing those things.
Right.
So how the heck?
I'm telling people more and more, I mean, to try to stay away from two-factor authentication that's text-based or SMS-based.
Oh yeah.
It's just sort of like it's better than nothing, but it is the bottom of the barrel of MFA. You need to have one of the the apps that can do two-factor authentication, or even better yet is if you can do security keys. Of course, then security keys, the issue is you're concerned that somebody might lose their security key somewhere, and then they'd have difficulty, getting back into the system. But the key thing I think here is that I don't think you're going to see as much checkbox type questionnaires, especially the larger you get. They're going to want verification somehow or another. And boy, I tell you, if you try to put MFA on a system after it's been breached, they're going to have a forensics expert that's going to tell them that. And they're going to say, sorry, game over. go, you have no money coming to you. Thanks for playing.
You say that, and I believe it's probably happened quite a bit.
Yeah, it's already starting.
It's happened quite a bit. Because, can we get away from service level accounts?
Yeah, it is awful hard. You got to have, you got to be able to, people got to be able to do their work. Simple as that.
So is this a place for Pam?
Sure. I think we're going to go beyond that. I mean, you have your access management, and you got to verify the user account, verify what computer it's coming from, all the players involved.
Yes.
And then as far as zero trust, you probably eventually will have more micro segmentation where the permissions are very, very small, where you might be able to see only have, say, like read only access to a certain part of a database, not even the whole database.
If the database is designed for that kind of granularity. I mean, that's another problem, right?
That's true. Absolutely. If it's mom and pop database, it's probably one big happy family. Anybody can go in there and do everything.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you that there is a major production shop that makes major motion pictures, and we encountered where the final prints were on a database server that needed some security. I'm going to leave it at that. Right. It's been corrected since then, but
good.
But
I'm glad.
But that could have been a catastrophic financial loss.
Sure.
I mean,
it's interesting. A friend of mine, their friend, designed a storage system just for the movie industry, and he spent a lot of money developing it and making it secure and having it encrypted, and on and on and on. And I can't remember the exact dollar figure, but compared to what movie studios generally spend on their movies, it was relatively minor. But they had a chance to try it out, I think, at least 6 months, and it worked perfectly, like as designed. And they just didn't want to come up with the money for that. It was interesting, but considering...
believe me, I believe that story in its entirety.
Yeah.
Given our experience with it,
and this person had relatives in the industry and had key contacts, and they just didn't. It wasn't on their radar.
So, and you know what's amazing to me is that they'll spend $100 million in the shooting, filming, production of a major motion picture. It might cost them $600,000 to get the right boundary layers in place.
Right.
Which is nothing. What's the interest on $100 million?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
think one studio wanted to buy it outright, the ownership of like a patent and everything. I think they only wanted to offer like maybe $200,000, and he said, "Well, that's the cost for you to be able to use it, but not to own it outright."
Yeah. Yet, and so my counter is like, in this case, the final cut was actually available to anyone with the right skills,
Yeah,
and they could release the movie before the movie house could and make it
sure.
available globally for free.
Yeah.
Now, what is the financial loss with that? And
Oh,
is
yeah.
600 grand really any amount of money to even talk about in the guarding of that? I,
Yeah.
I, so
Understood.
it's,
Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. I always visualize that again, that Russian roulette, like a pistol and they had the one bullet in it. And it's like, here, hand them the gun. Do you feel lucky today or not?
is this the way you run your cybersecurity program?
Exactly.
So, you in the insurance world, you talked a little bit about MFA. What about social engineering and routers and endpoints and all that?
Yeah.
Is that going to get requirements around those things going to get toughened up?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. I think they're still trying to figure out a lot of things like that. I think it sounds like there's a lot of talk about they may not pay the ransomware anymore. Where it was a big time, they just pay it, and they may or may not get the data back, even though they pay the ransomware.
Oh, the data part is a farce. I would never believe you even got it back because.
Yeah. Sure. And you probably heard in the statistics, I mean, a lot less people were paying the ransom last year. A
Yes.
lot less. So what's happening now, the trend now, and you may know this already, is that they're just exfiltrating all the data. They're holding that for ransom. They say, well, we're gonna start selling it on the market here in 48 hours if you don't come up with X amount of dollars, and or cryptocurrency.
See, how is this different from Bonnie and Clyde? If kidnapping didn't work, let's resort to extortion now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah, absolutely. It's the modern day Bonnie and Clyde. Or what's the famous mobster? Says, why do you rob banks? It's where the money is.
That's where the money is. Yeah, I don't know who said that. That wasn't Al Capone.
It was one of the big mobsters. We'd have to look it up. But then now it's like, okay, why are you doing this cyber crime? It's where the Bitcoin is. Or Monero or whatever.
Yeah, I mean and that's a whole nother topic, which we're not going to have time to talk about, but I'd love to have you back to talk about that whole the whole Bitcoin thing. So Bob, we're actually, man, we did not get through this list because I want to give you some time to go ahead and plug things that you want to bring to our audience's attention. Are there any appearances, books, talks, anything that you're up to that you'd like to plug out there?
I've not been as active lately as a result of COVID, but I'm hoping to be at Black Hat and DEF CON this summer if everything, the COVID and all the other viruses that are running around have slowed down a little bit. But one of the things I'd like to just tell people to look into doing some ad blocking. I'll have a video here very soon, maybe even if I have time, I may get it out by tomorrow, on ad blocking, because that is a thing that's happening currently right now. And also, everybody should be doing MFA on all the accounts that you can. If possible, look into eventually doing security keys like YubiKey. Those will up your ability to be able to protect your accounts better than most things right now.
That's wonderful advice, Bob. And we need to get you back and get into more topics. We've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, I remember I was interviewing for a board job on a small startup, and we got talking, and it was supposed to be like maybe 45 minutes to an hour at the most. We ended up talking like 4 hours straight. So it can happen.
It absolutely, there's a wealth of knowledge that you have, and we're grateful that you're willing to share it with our entire audience and the planet. Make us all a little bit safer.
Absolutely.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for being on the show. We look forward to having you back at some point.
You bet. And take care of yourself. Everybody stay safe and secure until next time.
Till next time.